All right, so now what we're going to do is take this into Photoshop and just kind of get a general texture, and I want to show you some things that you have to kind of look at as far as resolution is concerned. We made this map 2048 by 2048 if you follow directions correctly. And in Photoshop, you can find this map in the render data folder. So if you followed the instructions perfectly, I went in and I made a project, if you remember right, and that project was located on my desktop. It's very important that you make a project because that way when you do render this stuff out, it goes into that folder. Okay, so here we go. Unit 2, Jason Welsh. Here's my render data folder, mental ray, light map, and here's the light map. And if you can't find your light map, because I have students say that all the time, they're like, oh, I don't know where my light map is. You can go into batch make mental ray. Oh no, here's another way you could do it. Window, rendering editors, hypershade. Go to textures, here's your texture. And here's the path to your texture. Render data mental ray baked TIFF. So as you can see, I had something else because my system crashed and I had to recover. So this one is not the correct one. In fact, it is located under render data mental ray. It is this one, which is probably the same one, but just in case. And I can open this with Photoshop. So that's a neat little feature within. There we go, baked TIFF. All right, so there's a way to kind of look at to see where you can find this magical map that got translated for you. Next, what I'm talking about as far as resolution is concerned is image size. All right, so this is 2048 by 2048. Now I can always go down, but I can't go up when it comes to later on. So it is better to think about the future than it is the current 4096 by 4096. I'll develop the texture here and then reduce it later on, but at least I then have a high res and a mid range. Now you can only do that when you have the ambient occlusion. You can't do that later on because what will happen is all your textures will pixelate. For this data, I'm not really worried about pixelation because this is just shadow data. Okay, next. Let's go find the texture. Now it helps to have a digital camera, but I know students don't all have digital cameras, so but I will say a nice 8 to 10 megapixel camera comes in handy when it comes down to texturing. Wood texture. So in order to counter that, we have to go to wood texture, go to search tools, go to go to images, search tools, and go to size. And then we have to go to 8 to 10 megapixels. You can see the range of 8 to 10 megapixels falls within the 2048. But since we have a map now that's 4096 by 4096, we can go all the way up to like 12 or 15 megapixels. That's nice. Now the limitations here are, how many people actually have 15 megapixel cameras and how many people take pictures of wood texture. That's the only bad thing about getting it so highly detailed. But you can see there's quite a few. Copy that image, paste it in. All right, And you can see that came in pretty big compared to the object. And I will have to scale this down. Now, I did that very quickly. I went to the move tool where I have short transformation controls on, and that allows me to change the size of this. Just not to get distracted too much about like the placement of this, I'm going to first kind of get the scale down. Okay, so here's about the scale of that. Amazing, right? That the scale needs to change so much. But when I zoom in, you can still see that there's a lot of detail here. With wood texture, you can actually stretch it out this way. And you can see that when I did stretch it out though, I lost a lot of detail here. So you can stretch it within reason. A better scenario is using Alt, I can copy the texture. I can use the eraser tool, and I like using this eraser. I'll be using it for the entire series, number 17. Using the bracket, I can go in here and eliminate some of the parts that are repeated. And using the clone stamp tool, I can get rid of this anomaly right here. There we go. So that allowed me to tile it, and I could tile it one more time. That's about it before it starts looking too tiled. Alright, so now I got it near what I can get, and I can then stretch it out. Okay, this is just a mirror of that one. And you can see when I laid out the UVs, I thought about direction of wood texture, sort of. Once in a while, I'll take these and rotate them around to fight the tiled look. Okay, so there's all my wood texture going that way. What I want to do now, well, I'll put this one over here too. This board right here requires that I tile it once this way and do the same thing. Just this time I erase it here. Alright, now that I got all those boards going that way, I'll Control E to merge them. Turn them off for a second. And I might make them go the other way. If I had merged all of them, I'll probably lose one as far as being able to use it. So what I can do here is grab this one over here, edit, copy, edit, paste. This puts it on a new layer. Okay, I'll turn this one off, this one on, and I'm going to think about what boards go on to what as far as like joining is concerned. Think about woodworking, think about nailing these boards together by hand. Think of all that good stuff as you do this. Here's a good way to see the layer below. If you go to multiply, you can see that. And I'm going to trim this board to right about here. Just like that. I use Alt again, and I can copy that one and put it up here. Stretch it out just a skosh. Again, think about woodworking, textures, and all that good stuff. There we go. And those will probably match if I use Alt. I can copy these over. Of course, they do not match, so I'm going to have to trim some of this up. If you never had a Photoshop course, Photoshop's an essential tool. But Photoshopping for textures version versus Photoshopping for, let's say, just photos, big difference, huge. So Control E. So a lot of merging layers and stuff like that. And let's go to normal. Have this at normal, and now I have this. Now I could trim off some of this stuff, the older stuff, if I want to, just to clean it up. And I'll probably look for a different kind of wood texture for the center there. I like what I have here as far as Control E is concerned, so I'm just going to merge all those together, and I'm going to set this to multiply. Okay, this is what I got. Maybe a little bit of problem right there. Now I can undo, or I can use clone stamp. Doesn't really matter. You can see clone stamp takes a few seconds and it just works just as good. Try to get rid of all the white. If you see white, it's going to really show up on your model. Okay, I see a potential problem right here. Right there. And on the other side, it's okay. Perfect. So let's look for a different type of texture for right here, a different sort of wood, and then we'll move on. Okay, so I'm just going to save. Always be saving this stuff, and I'm going to save this within a place I can get to it. Under render data, mental ray, light map, TIFF. Right now I'm saving it as a TIFF because TIFFs have layers. Careful though, TIFFs are very big, 54 megs for this one file. So just be wary that sometimes these scenes can get rather big if you're not careful. All right, let's look for a different wood texture. Now I like this color, and I'll have to shop within a range, but I can show you how to adjust the color so it matches. And I think that's a really useful skill to have, because a lot of students do some really crazy stuff as far as like they look for stuff like this and then match it up, and that doesn't work out quite well. I like this idea. It'll make the box look like it's made out of other pieces too, and have little crate kind of areas where there's holes in the crate. I like that. So I'm going to copy this image. Make sure you can get into the larger image. If you can't, you are copying the wrong one. Never copy this one. And never copy this one. Always go to the view image. Okay, I'm going to put that below. Then I'm going to kind of turn that off so I can concentrate on just this, for example. Well, and I got to match the resolution. So right there. So you want to match the scale of things. I would say even smaller than that. Perfect. So that's the key right there, is matching that scale. If you can't match it, make sure you duplicate it and then fix it here. And follow the workflow for like anomalies and stuff like that, and you should be good. Clone stamp tool again, using Alt to capture some. And since the wood texture is going this way, I'm just kind of quickly swiping it. There we go. Control E to merge down to one layer. I could stretch this just a little bit since it's wood texture. I'm going to try to be a little proactive and do one of those. And I'll duplicate that over. Flip it around so it doesn't have a pattern. And crop off the rest so it doesn't interfere with the other texture. Okay, Control E to merge down. Look for any seams, or usually it's hid pretty well. Now the bottom one's a little bit bigger. So again, don't scale. That's bad. You know, you just want to do one of those. Control E to merge down. Trim off the fat. And you don't have to trim it all, because basically it's going to be set to multiply here in a second anyway. Good. Now let's take these and merge them all down. And I like to put this one on top. So double click on it to unlock it, go to top, and then set it to multiply. And there we go. We have now a wooden crate with some cool texture on it. Alright, let's transfer it back to Maya. Now to go back to Maya, again, you can save these as TIFF, but for right now I like to name this what it is. So this is crate underscore color map. And we'll get into like normal mapping and stuff like that. Okay, let's go back to Maya. Let's go like this. Double click on the texture in the Hypershade menu. Browse out. Notice that this has a path to it, so that's telling me that my path or my project is not set correctly. So set my project to be desktop, YouTube, or unit 2, and then select. Okay, so now if I go into notice I didn't have anything on C drive here. It just says render data. So this is correct. So as you're going along and you're doing this, make sure you correct those things ahead of time. Alright, as you can see, because I followed the workflow quite well, it looks pretty good. And now I can take off viewport 2.0 because I have that all baked in. So here's what it looks like without viewport 2.0 on. I don't like this right here. It looks weird. Oh, okay, wait. That's just a line from the viewport. Okay. Good. Not a bad little texturing job. So now you can make a crate out of this. Just duplicate it around. So let's look on to the next video.